So, I am going to test AI and its creative writing capacity. I'm really curious what it comes out with, whether it writes really generic poems or stories, or whether I'm impressed with it. Here's what I'm doing. I'm writing a poem first. I'm going to read that for you. And it's about music. That's the topic I've chosen today. And then I will prompt an online AI writing generator with the same topic, music, and then I'll read the poem that it produces. And then I'll analyze both poems, compare them, figure out how evident it is that one was written by a human and one by artificial intelligence. So here is my poem. My poem is called Evening Filled with Harp. If I may sit a while before the harp, my lies, my self inventions rise up from the fire they burn. The harp's music rushes in and through me. Strings never lie. The fingers move among the taut, full threads of life. If I may be a while, still, and feel the shaking of the threads, and feel the limits of a mind, the limits of a musician. We only play what has been written. Why can I not write these songs? These, they have been written. I was born to hear them, not to find them as author. Likely we had different, deep ancestors, this harpist and I. Perhaps I am lucky to hear him. Perhaps he is lucky to be possessed. So, that is my poem. Now, I will read the AI generated poem about music. It doesn't actually title it, it's just output. It was generated at penchance.org. In the realm where melodies unite, where every heartbeat finds its might, there lies a sanctuary, a delight, where music whispers through the night. The symphony of life, a tender tune, strumming softly on the strings of June, through the whispers of the autumn moon, in every raindrop's sweet June swoon, each note a story, a memory's bloom, a dance of shadows in a silent room, where the lost find their way too soon, in the rhythm that's the fabric of our gloom. The pianos sigh, the violins weep, the saxophones laugh, the trumpets leap. Together they create a soul so deep, where secrets of the heart they keep. All right. First impressions about this AI generated poem. They use the rhyming scheme, and so 4 lines in every verse all rhyme. The last word of them all rhyme, and that kind of really constrains what they're doing. They end up using a lot of pretty generic words, tune and swoon and moon and June. They kind of find ways to insert words that don't have anything to do with music, like June, moon, might is in the first. I guess a piece of music can be mighty in some sense, but I guess it rhymed with delight and melodies unite. That's the main reason they used it. So this AI obviously has like this list of rules for writing a poem. One of which is it has to rhyme every successive line within a verse has to rhyme, and there are 4 lines to a stanza, and those are just the rules it's playing by. I think pretty limiting. Um, yeah, I would say this poem is pretty weak in a lot of ways. I would say mine is better. Not that mine is perfect, but there is no such thing as perfect poetry. But I think this is pretty generic. Like, this is what a kind of teacher's pet who hasn't read much creative poetry would turn out. It shows you understand the rhyme scheme. It shows you understand the kind of assignment. But other than that, there's very little kind of character or kind of personal flavor within this poem. It's not about a specific kind of music or the relationship between the one who plays the music and the listener, as I kind of keyed into it in my poem. It's just a kind of blunt ode to music, which uses a lot of the words that you would expect. In the last stanza, the piano sigh, the violins weep, the saxophones laugh, the trumpets leap. I guess we're listening to a whole orchestra here. If we have violins and trumpets, saxophones, pianos, a little different than what I chose to write mine about, right? I mean, I was trying to kind of conjure up an intimate picture of a listener sitting near somebody playing a harp at night, around a campfire, maybe, or just in a place of worship that has a candle burning, or there's some fire in my poem, and that's a real attempt to kind of ground you and show you a little bit of kind of intimacy and a give and take relationship between a listener and a musician. That was kind of what I was curious about when writing my poem. And this seems like it either is describing a chorus or it just needed a bunch of words that are related to music in some way. And so the AI found all these different, instruments, words, describing instruments like piano, violin, saxophone, and trumpet, and just wanted to include them all to fill out the poem. So I think, here we see one of the big problems with this kind of like AI, chat GPT, computer generated creativity. Or just even if you're not writing like a poem or something artistic, you're just writing a paper or an essay or a report or something. There's just a lack of kind of constraint on what you're doing, right? It just reaches out. It hears you want to write something, and so it just reaches out to all of the most common sources and somehow finds a way to put them all in the poem. Obviously, writing like a short story or poem, let's take an artistic, writing assignment, not an academic writing assignment or writing a law, report or something like that. But you're writing a poem or a short story. One of the decisions you make is what to leave out of the poem. I mean, you don't want to just pile in everything that you've heard from, Robert Frost and, John Donne and Shakespeare's sonnets and just all of the best poems written in, America and England and throughout Europe and so on in history. You don't want to just pile in all that stuff and make your poem this kind of stew of references, right? You want to decide what you're not writing about first, kind of paint a picture and get specific with what you're writing about. And this is so kind of generic. It's such a broad brushstroke of all of the words that you would associate with music and all of the words that rhyme that you would associate with music, and then just pulling in these words that don't have much to do with music, like bloom. That's a word that is usually in poems about flowers, right? I guess you can have music that blooms in some sense, but a memory's bloom, it's just kind of a hodgepodge. And I think that's the real weakness of AI that I've seen as well. Like when you tell AI to write a short story or something, I've seen, videos of this online, or I've seen, posts about this on Reddit or on Substack or something, talking about some short story that was written by AI. There's just no decisions made about what they're not putting within the poem, So if you're not editing your own work, and if you only exist as a kind of consolidation of all of these other previous works that you're referencing and pulling from online, which is what AI is often doing, this is kind of what you end up with. In contrast, just going back to my poem as I look at it now, I think, I included a bunch of kind of angst in the beginning of my poem, my lies, my self-inventions. Really, it ends up being a poem mostly about the power of music to transport you away from overthinking. With music, you can start feeling, you can be grateful to the person who's playing the song. Um, and that takes you away from calculating how to get ahead and overthinking and self-doubts and everything. If you just feel, you stop being jealous that you're not playing it, and you're grateful that somebody is playing it. Somebody's been possessed with the spirit of music, as I say at the end of the poem. I think that's a healthy attitude to have with music, and that's why I ended up kind of writing my poem about that. I don't think I think I could have articulated that a little bit better, but overall, I'm happy with my poem, and I feel like it has a character. You can tell a person wrote it, um, not just because of the little weaknesses, but just because it doesn't seem like most of the other poems about music. It references a harp, which is a specific instrument, and it has all these little weird little interests of mine, like deep ancestry. Whether artists can be possessed by spirits as they're creating, right? How much do they take authorship of their own work? Um, the idea of shaking, right, which is a word I come back to over and over again, that there's something vibrating in music, that it can't lie because we only hear what is happening in the air as vibrations occur. Um, that is something I'm very interested in, and so I put it in the poem. And I don't think AI would have ever written a poem like that. So I think this exercise really showed some of the weaknesses of AI, and hopefully I convince more people to write their own stuff and not use AI for creative writing. Please. Thanks for watching.